spending isn't the problem. It's the people spending it that's been the problem.
No, but George, we don't have the proper coach to take us from improve the players from where they are, and that is the problem.
Well, that's the biggest. The biggest immediate problem is that Arteta's making people worse rather than better. I mean, there's a lot of our fans are absolutely outraged that people are commentating what a good job Thomas Tuchel has done at Chelsea, as if you shouldn't acknowledge that he's done a good job. Mm-hmm. He came in with exactly the same problems that Arteta's got. He had no pre-season, COVID, no spectators.
All the excuses, George.
And the club was in ninth position, and he's turned them round, and then they're sitting in fourth. They're in the FA Cup final, and they've
the Champions League final, George.
They're in the Champions League final. Yeah, and so he's done a remarkable job, and that's what he was hired to do. He came in because the previous guy wasn't getting the best out of that squad.
He was a disaster. Frank was a disaster, and at least Frank had experience managing Derby County. What experience Arteta had? Sitting in the assistant manager's chair at City, which have the best players, and occasionally Pep ask him what tactical change would you suggest? I'm simplifying things, yes, but Frank was not up to the job, and what Abramovich said, no, I can't be spending all this money. You're out of here. And he got Tuchel, who was an experienced coach and has been around the block. Dortmund and PSG are big jobs. Who do we have, George? I ask the audience, who do we have? We have had him for 16 months. Where is the improvement? Have the young players improved? Tell me. And is there any prospect of them improving? You tell me, George.
Well, no, they haven't improved. There's people on Twitter last night saying that Arteta's even managed to break Saka.
He looked horrible.
So, we got Smith Rowe. He came in for a few games and looked very good. Not anymore. He just looks struggling a bit. Odegaard had one good game against somebody propping up the bottom of the table. But the general point is Arteta is not getting the best out of this squad. Tuchel got the best out of his squad. That's what he was hired to because the previous guy. Well, let's go back a minute. Why was Emery sacked?
He wasn't getting the best out of us. Watford.
He wasn't, but maybe I don't think he was getting the best out of us. Yeah. Right? He got sacked basically for not getting the best out of the squad.
Right.
That was the reason he was sacked. And then Arteta's come in and got even less. He was hired to get more, and he's giving us less. He's had as long as Emery had. We sacked him for not getting the best out of the squad. We then spent £200 million more or £150 million more, and it's got worse. There's no justification for Arteta. There's no argument for him. None. Zero. Zilch. He's failed and failed miserably. And I understand that people say, but he's not the only problem. No, he's not the only problem. But he is the biggest problem at the moment to this squad. And there are bigger problems going forward now because of the hole he's dug us into. And you want to give him another 2 windows, another year, to see whether there might be an improvement. How are we going to improve? Where are the improved players coming from? I said this the other week. Some of our top players are getting past the point of no return age-wise. Aubameyang's not going to get any better. He's had a bit of a struggle this season. He doesn't look a player that he was. David Luiz will probably leave, and he's by far our best central defender, no matter how you look at it. Williams, 33, and hasn't done anything anyway.
Yes.
Lacazette's, 29? He's never the fittest, fastest, fleetest of foot anyway. is big problems. And who are you going to replace these people with? I don't know. Where are you going to get the money? I don't know.
Exactly.
And we'll get back. We won't get back in Europe. I told you, people mocked me horribly last year at the beginning of this season when I said we wouldn't get European football. Do you remember that?
I remember, George. You kind of mellowed when he got us back up from 2. But I know what you mean. You said it. You said it.
I'm telling you now.
And I was the optimist, and then I've become the pessimist.
I'm telling you now.
Yes.
You can take this to the bank. We won't get European football next year either.
And I am there with you, George, because.
Sorry, Shotta, what if Xhaka leaves?
Oh my goodness.
What if he leaves? If he thinks, I've had enough of this, I get abused, I'm carrying this fucking team, and I'm getting abused for it, I'm off. I'd rather play for Hertha Berlin than this show.
We saw that big hole that was left without him yesterday, and playing him every game, working him to death, and you and I spoke about this, and I said to you that I was very concerned post-Newcastle about playing some of the players that he did. In fact, I said he overplayed David Luiz. I know he was going to give Aubameyang a good run, but I feared, I don't know if I said it, that Xhaka was in the red zone because, and you remember...
Yeah, he played every minute. I don't know if you heard this last night, but it came on afterwards, and one of his excuses was Xhaka broke down in training just in the warm-up.
Yes.
And that was his game plan. He said we didn't have control of the midfield, we didn't have control of the ball, and Xhaka was, part of that game plan. So hang on a minute, Mikel. What you're actually saying is you wanted Xhaka to control the midfield from left back.
Yes.
you were going to play him at left back, and that was going to control the fucking game. Now, I'm not a fucking expert on football, but that isn't working, mate. That's just not... You cannot put somebody at left back and expect them to control possession of the football. George. And that was his excuse. Like, as if we brought Tierney in, and it's a downgrade on Xhaka because, I thought Tierney was the wonder boy. He was the poster boy of Arteta's success.
Yes.
And he was a downgrade on Xhaka, was he? Fuck's sake, there are no straws left for that fella to grasp.
Well,
he grasped his last straw for me. And he looked, to be fair, he looked very upset yesterday. I almost felt sorry for him. Because I did used to like the guy. I used to love him. And I did almost feel sorry for him. Until I remembered all the shit things he's done, all the shit decisions, how he's lied and misled us for 18 months, and I can't have sympathy for him. I can't wait for him to get out the club.
I don't, George, and as you know, I reminded people that in September of last year, I said that what was the word I used? He was, by freezing out Ozil, he was playing with fire. That was my headline. And I said, how can you which manager in any sport get rid of its best player and expect success? Who are you going to build your team around? And it has come to pass. And what annoyed me, and which you and I keep stressing, is that I emphasize in the article how he prevaricated, misled. It's basically a nice way of saying he lied to us. He was saying that was for football reasons. It was not for football reasons. It's because Ozil refused to bend the knee. And then on top of that, he got rid of all of Ozil's mates. What is that, George? That is absolutely an ego trip. Kolasinac had to go, so we have no reserve left back. Ainsley Maitland-Niles had to go because he said we are all for Arteta. And anybody... for Ozil. The man has been a disaster, people. I can't emphasize, and I was just thinking about it. But what is happening? The media is saying he's the greatest thing. I don't know how many more of them are on him. I noticed some of these big accounts yesterday were, they were changing their tune. So, I can tell you what they're doing right now, and I'll tell my listeners what they're doing right now. They are putting their finger and getting a little spittle, holding up in the air and seeing where the wind is blowing. Because all they're interested in is popularity and people clicking on their websites. Not about the future of Arsenal Football Club. Not about us playing proper football. George, what struck me yesterday, and I know I'm on a rant here, but this is something I want to get off my chest, is that the Arsene Wenger used to be mocked, demeaned, because you could predict his team almost to the man, maybe one or two changes. You could predict his substitutions. Yes, the entire season, I see you write previews. You cannot predict Arteta's team. And I'm like, geez, these players, when I saw that team yesterday, George, I'm saying these players must be going dizzy because they're playing in a system where we're going to be playing with three at the back, with young Smith Rowe and Odegaard playing behind Aubameyang. They were supposed to be playing behind him or beside him. And I'm like, they have never played like this before. You can't. How do you expect to go play a veteran team like Villareal? George, Abiol is like, he looks like 40. He knew what the hell he was doing. And we are sending these kids up against them. And they don't know what, and they haven't played in this game before. Did you notice that? It astounds me. I know.
Well, it shouldn't astound you. I mean, it was poor, but it wasn't as poor as last fucking week when they put Smith Rowe in as a false nine. It was a marked improvement on that. When the team came out, I said it would be 4-1-4-1.
Yes. And
people sort of mostly disagree with me. But that's exactly what it was. And Partey was the one. He didn't have a good game, Partey, but fucking hell, I'm not sure who in the world could have had a good game in that system. He was in the midfield on his own.
Right. And you know, George, every time that...
stop 3 or 4 players running past him. I mean, it was a hopeless setup. It didn't work. We're out. Deservedly so. 2 shots on target and 4 shots on target over the entire 180 minutes or 190 minutes or whatever it was. That's just unacceptable. It's just unacceptable.
Well, according to UEFA, George, we had 8 total 8 shots on 14 total attempts, 8 shots, and 1 on target. I don't know where UEFA gets this figure from, but UEFA stats, and I'm looking at the website, since that's the official stat, they say we have 1 on target, 8 off target. I don't know. I saw 2 shots that Alba had. Well, the header was wide, and the one in the first half of the goal is saved. Got his hand to. The one that hit the post, of course, is not counted as a shot on target. And that was, but anyway, they might be right. But, going back to what you said, George, you said it was a 4-1-4-1. And the thing that strikes me, George, and I'm telling fans, you need to be critical when you go to these websites. All of these websites had us playing like 3-4-3. And I was like, in the second half, I'm like, it's 4-1-4-1. It's Bellerin and Tierney on either side of Marie and Holding. It is the party in the middle. They're trying to run the game, and then 4 spread out in midfield and Aubameyang alone up front. And the horrible thing about it is that the 2 midfielders, Odegaard was supposed to be the second coming, and poor little Smith Rowe, they don't know how they couldn't provide Alba with the ball in a position where he can attack. You know how Alba got his chances, George? These were all counter-attacks. Spread mostly down the right on Bellerin's side. The ball comes over, the header, and one of his shots. That's how he got into those positions. They cannot provide him with a ball in the position where he can he's on the shoulder of the last defender, and he's running onto the ball, running onto an assist, a through ball. They can't.